Well, good morning, Sun Worshipers. This is George McClellan coming to you from Fetcher News Television, the North Georgia's only online live talk show. You can call me at 706-889-9700, or you can Google George at FetcherNews.com. It's not Google. You can email me at george@FetcherNews.com. A couple of things I want to talk about. Did you watch Fox News Sunday, this past Sunday? It comes on at 10 o'clock in the morning on Fox 5, and then late 2 o'clock in the afternoon on the network channel. Once again, Chris Wallace disappoints. He had as his guest former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie, an early Trump acolyte, and probably in line for a great job in the Trump administration. Wallace immediately descended into the trivial and the nonsensical with posed questions not on the issues of national interest, but on the petty items that only a sensational rag sheet newspaper would explore, like the 20-year-old mystery of former Venezuela Miss Universe's weight problem. That's important to us because he referred to her as Mrs. Piggy. I'd like to remind you that CNN is on record as having said the same thing several years ago, complaining about Miss Universe's weight problem. So, but we don't. That's important. That is really one of our national interests. We don't care. We just don't care. He opened Christie's Bridgegate problem. I don't care. It has nothing to do with the danger that America is facing right now with the election of Hillary Clinton. And then he talked about Trump's taxes. Well, I'll go into that in a little bit in this hour myself. But the thing is, we don't care about Trump's taxes because if he had been a criminal, the IRS would have been on him a long time ago like chicken on a June bug. And they're not. There's no criminal complaint. We feel that he just hasn't paid his fair share and he used the system. Well, the politicians made the system and he used it. There's no crime in that. Hillary Clinton is a criminal. Obama is a criminal. And the government is totally corrupt. And I will explain, and I will go through corruption today. We get it. We just want that den of rattlesnakes out of our house. Get them out of our house, and we think that Trump can do it. Why? Well, before we go into an article that I picked up recently that's very, very interesting, I want you to consider these questions first. Does Donald Trump's alleged tax problems affect your opinion about Donald Trump? If Trump was a tax cheat 20 years ago, 1995, don't you think that the IRS would have known it and have taken action already? Do you think the media is in the tank for Hillary and have lost all of their objectivity? Well, I think so. They've already admitted it. Some of them has. Does Obama have any concerns about Hillary's health? Yes, he does. And about Hillary's health, is it possible that her obvious health problems, the ones we see on TV, are connected to extreme stress that she feels awaiting the next drop from Wikipedia and Assange? Those are good questions to keep in mind. Who is responsible for our national thought process? There's a fellow named Jerome Foss who wrote an article I'm going to share with you. He's an assistant professor of politics in the McKenna School of Business, Economics, and Government, and a fellow in the Political Institution and Policy in the Center for Political Economic Thought at St. Vincent College, and he authored a book called The Constitutional Democracy and Judicial Supremacy. John Rawls and the Transformation of American Politics. The article's about a fellow named John Rawls. Elections, he says, are opportunities for Americans to take a look at their country and evaluate its current health. That could not be more true. Looking around us, as the election season shifts into high gear, we find ominous symptoms of political illness. The FBI, the whole Clinton's 4 years as Secretary of State, John Kerry's almost finished 4 years as Secretary of State, Obama's 8 years of presidents, we see nothing but corruption. Consider, for example, our increased ideological polarization, the repeated disregard of the Constitution by office holders, heightened racial tensions that have erupted in violence, the shriveling respect for religious freedom, unless it's Islam, and the growing habit of using the judiciary rather than the legislature to change public policy. Obama's even going so far as to enlisting the United Nations to change our policy. One reason we have these problems is because of the way we think and talk about politics in America. The political landscape has been heavily influenced by John Rawls. Many in academia consider Rawls the most important American political thinker of the 20th century. Maybe. For their side, definitely. A book written, The Hidden Influence of John Rawls on the American Mind by Jerome Foss, said that the framework many Americans use when considering or discussing elections, laws, and public policies has been shaped by Rawls' thought. His works have set the tone not just for the Academy, but for the American legal and political culture as well. I believe that Rawls came from what is called the Frankfurt School of political thought. Before the rise of Hitler and National Socialism in Germany, there was a think tank in Frankfurt, Germany, which espoused the kind of reasoning we have right here, right now. With the ascendancy of National Socialism and its leader, Adolf Hitler, this think tank pulled up and moved to New York City. This was back in the 30s, and moved to New York City. And it's called the Frankfurt School when we're talking about think tanks. It is from these people that we now suffer the burdens of political correctness. I'll explain more. Rawls, and here's a key element, through Rawls' desire to preserve the principles of liberty and equality, may, at first blush, remind us of the Declaration of Independence, our Declaration of Independence. But in reality, Rawls saw freedom as being good only to the extent that it does not lead to great inequalities of opportunity and wealth. Who can argue against that? But it is the basis of sending our Constitution to the dark vault never to be seen again. It changes our inalienable rights to what government says we can and can't do, rights that government gives us. The general approach has become popular in academia and politics alike. How do you give people freedom but prevent it from leading to unequal conditions? How do you give people freedom but prevent it from leading to unequal conditions? Well, the answer is the government, and specifically the judiciary. The judiciary must take up the job of protecting those it feels are being treated unfairly. So there's the basis, the change of thought that has infected our universities, colleges, and it has introduced liberal thought. The heck with the Constitution, it doesn't do good. While you might have a chance to prosper and do well, not everybody can do that, so we have to protect everybody and give them an equal chance. In order for the judiciary to protect those it perceived as underprivileged, it has to view people not as Americans or individuals with rights, but as subgroups with particular identities associated with their class, their race, or their gender. Gender's been recently introduced. That's why LGBTers are now being allowed to go into the bathroom of their choice. Well, in this way, according to Rawls' theory, identity politics is encouraged, especially by the judges, to rule in favor of identity politics. Normally, if the court is asked to decide whether a law is constitutional, it looks to the specific powers listed in the Constitution. And we know that. We've been arguing that, but we have not seen, we do not understand that that idea has been swept away. Rawls asks that it decide instead whether the law is motivated by a sincere desire to make things more equal and fair. Well, yes, it does. But the problem is that everything that the progressives try to do under the auspices of this thinking, it fails. It always fails. It always fails, but we mean well. That's what they want to tell you. We mean well. We meant well. We didn't want to harm anybody or spend billions of taxpayer dollars, but we meant well. We're sorry about that. Our current political situation revolves around the rule of identity politics, political correctness, and judicial activism. Concerned Americans might turn to Rawls' thought to see how we got here. Now, this article came from the Daily Signal, which is a part of the Heritage Foundation. When we mention judges, with this election coming up, we immediately see the great danger of having progressives on the Supreme Court, more progressives on the Supreme Court. It will be disastrous. It will be disastrous for America. And as Brian said earlier, there will be in America, but it won't be the one you and I know. It'll be people telling us what to do, how to do it, why we did it, when we're going to do it, and how much it's going to cost us. It's absolute corruption. Corruption. Our government is so corrupt, I can't believe it. And I will now I want to say, just bring up a couple of points here why incumbents need to go. And getting rid of incumbents is one of the ways we can at least slow this mess down. After the incumbent, the politician who has to get voted on every 2 or 4 years, after we solve that problem, we still have the bureaucracy of the office holders' staffs. And those people need to be switched around frequently and often. And they need to be brought down to a pay grade that we can afford to pay them. And maybe they'll decide that's not where they want to be and go away. We have Senator David Perdue of Georgia, however. Right now, he's adamant about imposing term limits on senators and congressmen as the only viable method of keeping our lawmakers honest. And he's absolutely right. He has started a program in the Senate where like-thinking congressmen have gotten up and spoken about the needs for the changes in the corruption in that body, and we'll see where that goes. When you vote for an incumbent, you are perpetuating government corruption, as we know it. And when we do that, nothing will change. Nothing will change. Here's three ideas. They'll tell you a lot about the direction of our government and our cultural environment. We are advised, as voters out here, not to judge all Muslims by the actions of a few lunatics, but we are encouraged to judge all gun owners by the actions of a few lunatics. I don't like the word lunatic. You put in the word Muslim or Democrat. For as I know, all of the gun violence in the last several years, 99% of it has been caused by people who think, vote, or are Democrats or Muslims. It's funny how that works. Here's another one. It seems we constantly hear about how Social Security is going to run out of money, and if the government shuts down, well, the parks will shut down, and the mines will shut down. We'll close down the Smithsonian Institute. You cannot go into our national parks. Well, how come it seems we never hear about welfare or food stamps running out of money or being shut down in a crisis? What's interesting is that the first group, we worked for our money, but the second group, they didn't. Think about it. And finally, why are we cutting benefits for our veterans who pay taxes for our who pay taxes like everybody else does on their earnings, but get no pay raises from the military? And we are cutting our Army to lower levels than before World War II, but we are not stopping payments to illegal aliens, such as monthly payments to each child, money for housing, food stamps, free education, including college, and also the right to vote. That's got to come to an end. That is the corruption of liberalism. That is the thought that Rawls brought to this table. And so, if I'm missing something, I'll be happy for you to call me, 706-889-9700, and we'll discuss this on the air. I'll like to have it. So I'm getting signaled it is time for us to earn some money for this show, so I'll be right back.
El Rey and Elijah.
El Rey Mexican Restaurant.
Family owned and operated, and a local favorite for families, parties, and meetings.
Great prices.
Friendly service and delicious Mexican cuisine.
Patio dining available.
Come sing in Carlos's Cantina every Friday 9 to 1.
Eat in or take away.
Same location for 14 years. Open 7 days at the corner of Maddox Drive and 515. North Georgia's favorite Mexican cuisine. El Rey and Elijah.
Pizza Hut makes great pizza, but they can't tell you what a gift it is. I can. They took a grilled cheese and combined it with stuffed crust pizza. To think, I almost wasn't here to try it.
How did you?
It's not important, Jan. What's important is that I watched the sunrise this morning. Then I got to stand in a room filled with this pizza. And later I'll stare at the ocean. Or maybe I'll learn Russian. Or listen to jazz. Or try my hand at needlework. Or open a door for a beautiful woman. Or read a human interest story or make dessert wine. Or ride a wild horse. Or experiment with watercolors. Eat every slice like it's your last. Especially you, Doug. Especially Doug, right? You care about Doug. The grilled cheese stuffed crust pizza. Proof that no one outpieces the Hut.
North Georgia Diamond is your source for diamonds. Come on in to view the area's largest selection of fine jewelry at North Georgia Diamond. All repairs and designs are done on site by our jewelers. And North Georgia Diamond has the lowest prices on loose diamonds. You can also sell your gold, silver, and coins at North Georgia Diamond between Walmart and Lowe's in East Ellijay. Locally owned by Bill and Allison Craig, North Georgia Diamond is your source for diamonds in North Georgia.
What you gonna do with all that junk?
Well, welcome back. This is Georgia's Hour on Fetcher News Television, North Georgia's only live online talk show. And so far, I'm still talking to myself. I know there's some viewers out there, but apparently they all agree with me because because here I am. No one's called yet. But let's talk about Donald Trump. Tonight is the vice presidential debate, probably the only one going. Mike Pence against Tom Kaine. Both of them are governors. One of them was starts off by saying that first he's a Christian, then he's an American, and then he's a Republican. And Tom Kaine, who's a Democrat, liberal, progressive. So we got the idea, and plays a harmonica. Anyway, who is Donald Trump? And why is tonight's debate important? I think tonight's debate will give Pence an opportunity to correct some of the misconceptions that the media loves to gloat over that Trump laid during the debate with Hillary. Hillary is taking a victory lap, she thinks, but these people do not realize, they absolutely do not realize that they're not winning. They're simply not winning. Here's the background as I've been trying to put it together. Trump is a giant middle finger to corrupt politics, the politicians, the media, and government. Trump supporters are like the white girls in the 1960s who dated black guys just to annoy their parents. And I'm reading this from an article from a fellow, a very good named Roy Kaplan, did some good research, and I've made some changes just to make it shorter. Most Trump supporters simply have had it with the Democrat, socialist, progressive model, and the Republicans in name only, who knew there wasn't a dime's worth of difference between Hillary Clinton and Jeb Bush. Remember Jeb Bush? He thought he was going to just walk away and be the nominee, another Bush in the White House. And there's only a few cents difference worth between Hillary Rodham Clinton and the other GOP candidates. Then comes Trump. Absolutely. Now, one of the candidates was Ben Carson, brilliant medical researcher, a medical doctor, a physician, a surgeon. Ben Carson was not an establishment candidate like Trump wasn't, but the Clinton machine polarized him, or they would have if he had gotten the nomination. And somewhat rebellious Ted Cruz, have been tied up with his natural-born citizen lawsuit. Marco Rubio could have been as well. The Trump supporters figure they may as well have some fun tossing Molotov cocktails at Wall Street and Georgetown while watching the nation collapse. Besides, lightning might strike Trump, might get elected, and he might actually fix a few things. Stranger things have happened, but the nation elected an Islamo-Marxist in 2008, and that week, because we care, Bruce Jenner now wears designer clothes. And Kim Kardashian was robbed in her hotel room. Do we believe that? Do we even care? Millions of conservatives like me, we're furious. We're furious. We gave the Republicans control of the House in 2010, control of the Senate in 2014, and have seen them govern no differently than Nancy Pelosi or Harry Reid. Yet those same voters, we're supposed to trust the GOP in 2016. I continually get plastic cards from the RNC begging me to renew, and this is my new identity card. No, I'm not going there. I'm not sending the RNC any more money. I'm sending my money to my candidate of choice, no matter what the election is. Trump did not come out of nowhere. His candidacy was created by the last 6 years of Republican failures. That's a wonderful statement. No reasonable person can believe that any of the establishment candidates, Democrats or Republicans, would have slashed federal spending, rein in the Federal Reserve, cut burdensome business regulations, reform the tax code, or eliminate useless federal departments, the Department of Education, the Department of Energy, the Department of Housing and Urban Development. Even Ronald Reagan, poor old Ronnie, was unable to eliminate the Department of Education. Of course, getting shot at tends to make a person less of a risk taker. No reasonable person can believe that any of the nation's major problems will ever be solved by Hillary Rodham Clinton as she is simply the third verse of Obama's swan song. Many Americans, and especially Trump supporters, have had it with anyone named Bush, anyone named Clinton, anyone who held political office. We're tired of political correctness, illegal immigration, massive unemployment, the murder rates on our streets by illegals, out of control federal spending. We're tired that our national debt exceeds our gross domestic product. Can you say Greece? We're sick and tired of the Bush family. We're tired of phony unemployment and inflation rates. We're tired of welfare waste and fraud. We're tired of money being spent on the illegal immigrants, but not on our veterans. We're tired of the TSA morons groping people through the lines. We're tired of Obamacare. It's collapsing and they still hang on. We're tired of the Federal Reserve money printing schemes. And we're tired of Michelle Obama's $1 million vacations, her food police policies. Brian talked about it on his show. We're tired of Barack Obama's golf games. Who cares? We're tired of his arrogant and condescending lectures, his criticism and hatred of America. We're tired of Valerie Jarrett, his Iranian Muslim consigliere. We're tired of holiday trees. I want to see a Christmas tree in the White House again. We're tired of Hollywood hypocrites, cop killers while Black Lives Matter. I don't think so. Gun confiscation threats, stagnant wages. We're tired of boys in girls' bathrooms, whiny, spoiled college students who can't even place the Civil War in the correct century. And that's just the short list. We're sick and tired of progressivism. It is not the American way. Trump supporters believe that no Democrat wants to address these issues, and the few Republicans have the courage to address these issues. I might say that our Senator David Perdue does. How do they know that Trump is their way of saying, screw you, Hillary Rodham, and all the do-nothing Republicans? The more the talking head political pundits insult the Trump supporters, the more supporters he gains. The only pundits who seem to understand what is going on are Democrat Doug Schoen and Pat Caddell and Republican John LeBoutier. Let me tell you, Hillary has a couple hundred people show up at her rallies. Trump has thousands. He packs the house. Those are voters. Those are voters. Those people are going to pull the lever. And they're telling these pollsters, no, I won't Trump. He sounded like an idiot on his last debate. He lost me. No, they don't like Hillary more. How dare they revolt? America does not need a tune-up at the same old garage. It needs a new engine installed by experts, and Hillary is not a mechanic. She merely manages the garage her philandering husband abandoned. Trump is also not a mechanic, but he knows where to find the best ones to work in his garage. He won't hire his brother-in-law or someone to whom he owes a favor. He will hire someone who lives and breathes mechanics. How dare they revolt? The elites are bellowing. Well, remember Hillary saying, why shouldn't I be ahead by 50 points? And then she goes into this little tirade. Well, the citizens we are daring to revolt. And the rhinos had better get used to it. Trump will hand the election to Clinton, according to Karl Rove. That's what they want to believe, that Trump will hand, because of Trump, Clinton will win the election. Just as the leftist media eagerly shoved McCain down the GOP throats in 2008, knowing he would lose to Obama. But even if Trump loses and Rodham wins, she would be nothing more than a caretaker, not working to restore America's greatness, but merely presiding over the collapse of a massively in-debt nation. A nation can perhaps survive open borders, a nation can perhaps survive a generous welfare system, but no nation can survive both, according to Roy Kaplan. And there's little evidence that Hillary Rodham understands that. The United States cannot forever continue on its path. At some point, we will be destroyed by our debt. Everything that the government is now spending is borrowed. every bill they pass is borrowed. Trump speaks like a bull wandering through a china shop. That is true. But the truth is also that the borders do need to be sealed. We cannot afford to feed, house, and clothe and pay 200,000 Syrian immigrants for decades, even if we get inordinately lucky and none of them are jihadist infiltrators. Is Trump the perfect candidate? Of course not. Neither was Ronald Reagan, but unless we close our borders and restrict immigration, all the other issues are irrelevant. One terrorist blowing up a bridge or a tunnel could kill thousands. One jihadist poisoning the city's water supply could kill tens of thousands. One electromagnetic pulse attack from a single Iranian nuclear device could kill tens of millions. Faced with those possibilities, most Americans probably don't care that Trump relied on eminent domain to grab up a quarter-acre property for a hotel, or that he boils the blood of the Muslim Brotherhood thugs running the Council on American Islamic Relations care. While Attorney General Loretta Lynch's greatest fear is somebody giving a Muslim a dirty look, most Americans are more worried about being gunned down at a shopping mall by a crazed Islamic lunatic who treats his prayer mat better than his 3 wives and who is a fool enough to think that 72 virgins are waiting for him in paradise. We can send him to paradise and he can find out. And that's what I think. The establishment is frightened to death that Trump will win, but not because they believe he will harm the nation. They are afraid he will upset their taxpayer-subsidized apple cart. While Obama threatens to veto legislation that spends too little, they worry that Trump will veto legislation that spends too much. Now, how about them apples? You can see that if Hillary wins in November, her cabinet positions will be filled with the same people we've seen before. The washed-up has-beens of the Clinton and Obama administration will be back in charge. The hacks from Goldman Sachs will continue to call the shots, and America will continue her decline as other great democracies in history have done. And the worst of it is, her appointments to federal courts will speed that transition. I wanted to talk about Trump's taxes. I think I mentioned that we would do that. We already knew the basic outlines of the Trump tax deduction bombshell. Every spring, millions of progressive households join with their conservative neighbors and busily get to work doing the same thing, filling out a tax form. They open TurboTax. They take documents to an accountant, or we sit down with pencil and paper at the kitchen table to figure out how to pay the smallest amount of tax possible. Sure, we may disagree on what a tax rate should be or whether certain deductions should exist, but after the rules are set, both sides apply them, work diligently to minimize their tax liability, and celebrate when the refund is larger than expected. Oh, happy day. In all my years, not once have I ever heard anyone say, you know, I could have taken that business expense deduction, but I decided the troops needed the cash more than me. Yet to read Twitter, one would think that Donald Trump is a monster for apparently using legal tax breaks to offset future earnings. I heard on Fox News yesterday, Warren Buffett in 2014, just 2 years ago, lost over $900 million. So there we go. And Warren Buffett is the holy grail for Democrat wealth. They believe in him. According to leaked documents obtained by the New York Times, Trump took an immense loss in 1995. 1995? That was over 20 years ago. An amount totaling nearly $916 million. The paper then notes that this amount would be enough to allow Trump to pay no income tax, even if he made $50 million per year for the next 18 years. The Trump campaign didn't deny the fundamental facts of the story. And the commentariat was off to the races, hashtags and all. He paid no taxes, he paid no taxes, he paid no taxes. Well, since this is 2016, It was hard to find rational discourse. Trump defenders proclaiming his genius were cleverly eliding his catastrophic losses. Indeed, Trump has endured massive financial setbacks, and he had himself primarily to blame. Yet his attackers were almost certainly hypocrites. How many of them have skipped standard available deductions for the purported good of the Commonwealth or our nation? Yes, the tax code is complicated, and yes, it is intentionally crafted to provide benefits to particular classes of business, but that's simply progressive workery in action, progressive wonkery, believe it or not. Technocrats are constantly fiddling with the code to incentivize or discourage certain kinds of business activity. Only politicians do that. Politicians do that. Politicians do that. We elect politicians. We can unelect politicians. That is the spark plug. That is the thing that makes all these taxes grow. And we'll get back to this on the other side. It's time for another break. We'll see you.
El Rey and Elijah.
El Rey Mexican Restaurant.
Family owned and operated, and a local favorite for families, parties, and meetings.
Great prices.
Friendly service and delicious Mexican cuisine.
Patio dining available.
Come sing in Carlos's Cantina every Friday 9 to 1.
Eat in or take away.
Same location for 14 years. Open 7 days at the corner of Maddox Drive and 515. North Georgia's favorite Mexican cuisine. El Rey and Elijah.
Pizza Hut makes great pizza, but they can't tell you what a gift it is. I can. They took a grilled cheese and combined it with stuffed crust pizza. To think, I almost wasn't here to try it.
How did
It's
you?
not important, Jan. What's important is that I watched the sunrise this morning. Then I got to stand in a room filled with this pizza. And later I'll stare at the ocean. Or maybe I'll learn Russian. Or listen to jazz. Or try my hand at needlework. Or open a door for a beautiful woman. Or read a human interest story, or make dessert wine. Or ride a wild horse. Or experiment with watercolors. Eat every slice like it's your last. Especially you, Doug. Especially Doug, right? You care about Doug. The grilled cheese stuffed crust pizza. Proof that no one outpieces the Hut.
North Georgia Diamond is your source for diamonds. Come on in to view the area's largest selection of fine jewelry at North Georgia Diamond. All repairs and designs are done on site by our jewelers. And North Georgia Diamond has the lowest prices on loose diamonds. You can also sell your gold, silver, and coins at North Georgia Diamond between Walmart and Lowe's in East Ellijay. Locally owned by Bill and Allison Craig, North Georgia Diamond is your source for diamonds in North Georgia.
What you gonna do with all that junk?
Well, welcome back. George McClellan at FetcherNews.com, North Georgia's only live internet talk show. We're talking about the tax issue that is belaboring Donald Trump. To be sure, according to the Times, they insist they have more documents from 1995, presumably. And we may discover that Trump's tax filings crossed legal lines, but if they did, the IRS would have revealed that years and years and years and years ago, or we may not. But right now, the story is lurid, mainly because of the numbers, not because of the underlying principles. The underlying principles do not make it a crime. It's perfectly legal. A man lost money. He was thus entitled to take deductions. He almost certainly took those deductions. Wake me up when this gets interesting. What is interesting, however, is the speed at which pundits can impose new moral standards. Who are they to impose standards? This goes back to this Frankfurt School of Thinking. Writing in the Washington Post, Alan Sloan notes that while both Trump and Hillary Clinton are filthy rich, at least Clinton's tax proposals would cost her money, while Trump stands to benefit immensely from his proposed tax cut. So would Hillary. The story is lurid mainly because of the numbers, not because of the underlying principles. But the proper standard for economic effectiveness and moral propriety is not whether any given tax proposal will cost a candidate money. By that standard, virtually every tax-cutting Republican would fail the moral test, but whether the policy would increase prosperity and enable human flourishing. When a politician considers the tax proposal, he or she should disregard their own self-interest entirely, weighing its merits regardless of whether it costs or saves him money against what is constitutional or not, whether it's lawful. His own personal experience is relevant only to the extent that it informs his knowledge as to how tax policies work in the real world. Moreover, wealthy, public-spirited Americans who want to pay less taxes and provide more charitable contributions are punished. Charity dollars are typically far more efficiently spent and allocated to help our nation's poorest and most vulnerable citizens than tax dollars, and which prop up our soul-destroying welfare superstructure. Leftists argue that Trump's tax dollars would have been outlaid to support troops and vets, but the majority would have gone to the exact same causes that the rest of our dollars support: immense entitlement programs, massive bureaucracies, and debt service. Can we say that? Massive, immense entitlement programs, bureaucracies, and debt service. Sadly, it appears as if Trump has hardly been the model philanthropist, and his continued failure to release his tax returns leaves his supporters hanging by a thread. So that's why they go back to 1995. So I think say we have something for something over 20 years old. Trump doesn't have to release his taxes. Who said that? Where is that? Hillary doesn't have to release hers. You want to know what Trump's taxes are? Look what he put in the open record when he applied to run for, when he paid his fees to run for president of the United States. Unless another shoe drops, it might, it's time to return to the truly pressing issues that face America today. After all, another beauty queen might be nursing an ancient grudge, and Americans have a right to know. Another thing that has dropped from the screen is this, in the last couple of days, is the Hillary Clinton email scandal with James Comey. And I'm going to get to that right now. I have to download it. I don't have it on a piece of paper here. I can't decide whether I like this little machine better or this better, but I can fiddle with this and don't look like I'm fiddling with my fingers. This was my thought I sent out yesterday. It's called Comey, Clinton, Collusion, Cronyism, and corruption equal crime. We were confused by FBI Director James Comey's bizarre explanation, both to the public and later under oath to the House Judiciary Committee, trying to explain his convoluted reasoning that justified his failure not to recommend prosecution of arguably America's greatest criminal, Hillary Rotten Clinton, who, with her pervert husband Bill, make Bonnie and Clyde look like childless shoplifters. Comey must resign. We are confused no longer. The answers are revealing themselves. Prosecution of the criminal, Hillary Clinton, was not even contemplated because it would have directly implicated our feckless leader, Barack Obama, as a co-conspirator to a crime of the highest level, the reckless endangering of America's security. We were once again lied to, and that was the very reason why Hillary Clinton escaped the dock. The first clue to the knowledgeable observer was that when the White House refused to disclose 22 emails between the president and his Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, through her private email server, it soon became apparent that Obama, using a pseudonym, had engaged in the same criminality as Hillary and Hillary Clinton that Congress was investigating. Her mishandling of classified information then becomes an Obama problem, and the FBI killed that. And by that act alone also, all of Hillary's staff involved with her communications now have a free pass from prosecution. But the waters run even deeper. FBI Director Comey has a brother, Peter, who works for a company called DLA Piper, a law firm that does the Clinton Foundation taxes. FBI Director Comey was paid $6 million through the Clinton Foundation from his brother-in-law's firm of cash paid by the defense contractor Lockheed Martin Aircraft. Lockheed then became a contributing member of the Clinton Foundation and also a member of the Chamber of Commerce of Egypt. Subsequently, Lockheed got 17 contracts. Now, who would believe that? And they were approved by Hillary Clinton when she was Secretary of State in 2013. FBI Director Comey was appointed also as a director on the board of the, quote, Systems Vulnerabilities Committee of London Bank, HSBC. HSBC partnered with the Clinton Foundation and projected $1 billion in financing through the foundation for upgrading 1,500 to 2,000 housing units for green energy conversions, and that was in New York City. The director's brother, Peter, of DLA Piper, is a senior director of real estate operations for the Americas, but his name does not show up on any of the company's rosters. However, a phone call placed to DLA Piper asking for Jim Comey was immediately put through. Director Comey, as a member of Clinton Foundation Corporate Partners Board, let me say that again, Director Comey, as a member of the Clinton Foundation Corporate Partners Board, apparently has a financial relationship with his brother through DLA. He has a home mortgage over $600,000. DLA Piper performed the independent audit of the Clinton Foundation during Hillary's first big push to try to end the email scandal that was engulfing her. Also, it appears happy employees at DLA Piper apparently represent a major block of Hillary Clinton's campaign donors. You want to work with DLA Piper? Make a contribution to Hillary Clinton. Piper ranks number 5 on the Clinton's top contributors list, even ahead of Goldman Sachs. Now, how about that? As the plot thickens and the corrupt cronyism continues to reveal itself, it becomes clearer and clearer that we are heading right into that wonderful utopian world that George Orwell warned us about in his book 1984. We can also thank Alexander Solzhenitsyn, a Russian, for his contribution to our understanding of what's coming with his 1972 book, the Gulag Archipelago, a book I read immediately it came out. It's scary, folks. I mean, it's really, really scary where we're going with this country and where the progressives are taking us. Remember, freedom is the goal, the Constitution is the way. Now go get them. So, I have a few more minutes, and there's a couple of more things that I wanted to talk about. We covered the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court should make decisions that upholds the Congress, not agencies. Agencies should not be making criminal law, and that's at the Supreme Court right now. Our David Perdue, our Senator David Perdue, he says there's no budget made. Then this junior senator says that should mean pay cuts for politicians and staff. Who's not for that? Don't do your job, why should you get paid for it? We need a budget, we need a straight line budget, renewed annually, not left over. Oh, here's an interesting one. You talk about piddling little rules and nonsense. Arizona has a war on barbers. Barbers. To become a barber in Arizona, you must spend 1,500 hours, 1,500 hours at a barber college. At a barber college. I think the same applies to hairstylists and fingernailers and people like that. That is an organization of barbers who do not want other barbers to get the job, to come to compete with them. That's just a progressive way of eliminating competition, is to make it so difficult somebody don't want to join, somebody doesn't want to do it. So we have that problem with us to look at. The news is full of so many things to talk about. I have a hard time I thought I had pretty much covered my whole hour with this, and I'm getting awful close. Are we doing Pool's thing today? We're not doing, this is Tuesday, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, we're not doing Pool. Sorry about that, Oscar. We'll look into that. The hurricane, there's a big hurricane coming. It's crossing Haiti right now. It's also crossing Guantanamo Bay, where our U.S. Navy fleet is, or some of it.
Category 4.
It's a Cat 4, and it could grow to Cat 5 once it crosses.
It's going to drop to Cat 3. It's going to drop to Cat 3.
It is going to drop and not go up to a 5. I heard the potential of a 5 this morning. Interesting. That hurricane is going straight north, and it's going to go straight north for a while. So that means it will definitely go across probably Miami, right up the coast of Florida on the Atlantic side. Tampa and that area will get a lot of rain, and I suspect if it even veers slightly towards, if it even comes to be a threat to Savannah and Charleston, right up here in the mountains, we'll get a lot of rain. Remember when Ivan came through about 5, 6, 7 years ago? We called that the storm of the century. That was the storm of 5 centuries. Everything was flooded. I cannot remember.
2005?
Yeah, it was at 2005. My goodness, 16 years ago?
Yep, I was in elementary school.
Well, 11 years ago, and you were in elementary. Anyway, that was a lot of darn water, and I saw automobiles on Legion Road. I remember Mercedes was way up in the kudzu, 20 feet above the road level on the Kusawati River, 20 feet up in the kudzu. And so water does a lot. So what do I got, another minute? I got another 2 minutes. The British Parliament has condemned a panel of the British Parliament has condemned the 2011 NATO war in Libya. It's too late for that. They participated, France participated. It was Hillary's war, and she's going to have to bear the burden of that. Feds won't clear out illegal Occupy protest camps at Dakota Access Pipeline. There's the oil pipeline up in the North Dakota, and the American natives, the Indians, have declared that it crosses through an area that is sacred because it's burial ground. So there's a big camp out going on up there that is going on. So anyway, I'll be back tomorrow, God willing, and we will talk more on politics and give you some more ideas of where this. And we'll definitely talk about if there's anything left over from BK on the vice presidential debate that's on tonight. So watch it. Yeah, I'm going to watch it. I'm going to forget Dancing with the Stars.
You don't like Dancing with the Stars?
No, I love Dancing with the Stars. You know what I like about that program?
What?
Those people work so hard. They might be celebrities, but they work harder than anything I've ever seen in my life.
Oh, what a
God, it's amazing. All right. We'll catch you on the other side. See you tomorrow.